Here's the question. How do you make the impossible possible? Simple. Remove the I am, the ego. Now, how do you step into that newfound possibility? With a series of small intentional steps. Never forget, the greatest among us started from humble beginnings. But to truly unlock your potential, realize you're here for something greater. If you're yearning for more than just a good life, let's take that small step together to reach greatness. Welcome to the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast, where we're talking to those who have gone from mediocrity to motivated, overlooked to overachieving, forgettable to unforgettable. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome back, everybody, to the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast. I've always loved that title because there's a lot of aspects to it, and which we will get into here. But episode 5, I sat right here at this same spot and talked to you, and I just looked back at it, and it was like an hour and 25 minutes. So surprising that it took that long to tell the story, right?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot to tell. But what I noticed as I re-listened to it is that there was tactical, a lot of me and I in there. And there was towards the end, we talked a lot about faith, but not as much about how this whole partnership thing happened as you went forward. Mm-hmm. Like I was talking to you alone. So it was, it was about your story. But I've had several requests since that a few months ago. We've got to get the other side of this story.
That's right.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, there is always another side of the story.
There's always another side of the story. So, Eduardo Norell, Aida Norell, the partner, the one that's gone through this life together.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get to hear the rest of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Not the other side, but the rest of the story. I like that.
Yeah, the rest of the story. So there was an old, some people that are older will remember, but there was Paul Harvey was a guy's name. And he was on the radio for years. And every day at a certain time, they had a little radio clip called The Rest of the Story. And he dug into the history on something.
Oh,
and he gave the
cool.
flip side to it. And he's a Christian guy, and he loved history, and he always gave the opposite view. And often it was the God view, what was going on. And he was a syndicated radio guy.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Now
Paul Harvey, look it up.
I will look it up.
It will be all over YouTube. Yeah, no doubt about it, because he had thousands of clips on there that were several minutes long, I'm sure.
Wow.
Yes.
So that's where I got that.
Yeah.
The rest of
I will look it up. Yeah, the rest of the story. I like that.
I like that. He said it slow. The rest of the story.
With the deep voice.
So, came from Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the meat of Eduardo's story started in 1994. He thought he was going to go to the Soviet Union to Germany.
Yeah.
To go into engineering and cars and these kinds of things. And that didn't happen because of, the Soviet Union.
The collapse of the
Soviet Union, yeah. And then, so that went away, but then 4 years later, and he alluded to the fact that you were able to apply
mm-hmm.
and then be accepted because both of you went to university. So it's always been an important, an interesting part of the story to me. As he's learning and struggling and part of the system there, you were too. And I want to hear that. But question I like to ask to kind of get things warmed up is, what's greatness mean to you?
Well, greatness.
Some real practical.
Yeah,
Okay, if you want to be great, this is what it's going to look
Yeah,
like.
I when I heard that word, you just bring me God to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Always, because that when my life really started. It, like a real life, the life that I always was, like wanted it and wish to have as a child. Yeah, always God came to my life. That moment. But anyway, that's what I think about that. About God.
Mhm.
first.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so what did he bring? If you were to say, hey,
Oh,
you're speaking to somebody here, somebody's listening.
uh,
You say, if you want to do something great, if you want to be great, here's the things you search for, and here's how you do it. What would that look like?
humility.
Mm, humility.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, what does that mean?
It means be yourself, and then always think about people, um, like that everybody is important. It's not just about you. That for me, that what it is. Yeah, humility. Be humble, and everything I think is from there. I mean, if you really bring yourself to, you know, to always think about others,
Mhm.
uh, I think you will get to that point, the greatness things, the good things in life.
I love the Zig Ziglar phrase. If you help enough people get what they want in life, you'll get everything that you want.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's one that really resonates with me because I get
That's a
focused
pretty
on
good
me.
one.
That's a pretty good one, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm most important person to me, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, but if I'm not, if I can set that aside for the moments when I'm interacting and remember that I get to do something for someone else, and that if they get what they want, then I will end up with everything
Mm-hmm.
that I really want out of life. My 3 words are joy, peace, and fullness. And though I may not get a return that I can measure, those things, if I get any of those in any measure, then that's pretty great, I
Uh-huh.
think.
It's pretty
Yeah.
big. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And
said,
it does come with humility. Something that I've been thinking about that I'd love you to speak on is that about awareness. It seems like the ones that are the most aware are the ones that serve the deepest,
Mm-hmm.
that are the calmest.
Yes.
You mentioned my wife earlier,
Yeah.
and a podcast she did with me, and she just seemed really calm. Even though she got emotional, she was really calm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she is a champ that way for sure.
She
She's
is.
really good in a crisis, no doubt about that.
Oh, yes.
But she, after her flash of, self-view, I guess you could say, looking at herself for a moment, she always is able to step back and look past herself. Okay, how does this action or my feeling or what I'm thinking
Mm-hmm.
affect others? Yeah. I see that in you too. So how do you do that in your work?
Well,
Tell us what
it's
you do for
been,
work.
yeah. Yes, I'm a medical assistant. I work in a jail in Multnomah County Jail,
Mhm.
and I assist, doctors and nurses. I'm a bilingual. Then I help people, like translate, interpret, appointments and stuff like that. But we mentioned Cuba, and I have to say this before I continue,
Mhm.
with my story. But when I was 16 years old, I met Eduardo, grandpa, and living in Cuba, a communist country at that time, if they see you with a Bible, you can probably not be in important schools or event, and they will not consider you to
Okay.
have, like a good career.
Mhm.
Um, but I remember, meeting him, and I noticed that he was so different because I didn't have access to a Bible. And then when I saw him reading the Bible, I asked him, what is that book? And he told me, he said, this is the most important book that you ever read. And I was in a really good school, and I was like, oh, I want to read that book. I wouldn't know what you're reading because you're so calm and you're so nice. And he gave me the book, and I remember getting that book, it told me when to start. It said, don't start from the beginning. Just start with, John, book of John.
Hmm.
So I did. Then when I was got to the point where Jesus was, people were like spitting on him and all that, and at that moment, I was so angry. I was so angry to everybody, to life, because my mom was a very good mom. She was, she struggled a lot
Hmm.
to raise us, and I was so angry to my dad and everything. And when I saw that moment of that man with the heart for people, like loving everybody and not even, like complaining about where he was going,
Hmm.
his destiny. And I went on my knees and I started crying like a baby. I couldn't stop crying. And I was 16, 17 years old. I remember, right? And that moment really changed me for good. Because my bitterness, my heart,
Mm.
it started like changing little by little, to the point that I was not thinking more about me or my mama. Then I understand, my mom suffer. It's okay to suffer. It's okay that if I suffer, I know it must be something good after this.
Mm.
Then that's when my everything started, right? Then I graduated in 1994 with a medicine, uh, doctor of medicine in Holguin, Cuba. And then at that time, brought Eduardo, us, together after he graduated of graphic design. And then we won a visa lottery to come to the States. And I wasn't sure. I said, I cry. I said, I don't know if I want to really go. I don't want to, Melanie, I don't feel like I should take Melanie away from my mom and your parents. They're
Hmm.
important to our life.
Yep.
And then Eduardo, we set a time just to discuss this issue. And he said, I cannot leave you guys behind. I just can't do that. I want you to decide, if you want to do that. Well, I decided, okay, you're the father. I think I should, since I didn't have the father figure when I was growing up. And I said, this is important. Anyway, I got here. And at the beginning of that started as a, Ida, you need to get your degree back. You need to do
Hmm.
the studies and do this and that. And I tried for 2 years to get all my credentials, all everything from Cuba. But at that moment, it was a difficult time for people to bring all the credits and everything, because most of the time they didn't want to release those credits.
Okay.
They want you to be able, anyway. uh, the point is that I couldn't get it in 2 years, and I have to work. And I said, work, work. I mean, I need to learn English. I thought I speak a little bit, but people, my accent was so heavy. People
Hmm.
couldn't understand. Know that my accent is not heavy still, but it's okay.
It's okay.
Um, but but it took me few years to understand, Keith, that it wasn't about my title, because I applied for a job and they didn't give it to me, that first position, working for Clackamas County. And they offered me this position working for Multnomah, a jail. And I was like, okay, God, this is funny. You didn't give me that one, but you're giving me this one
Hmm.
that it pays a little bit more. But at that time, it was, was kind of um, not too much money. But he said, I want you to do this one.
Hmm.
And I was like, every time I tried to like stop working in the jail, like get out, like do my studies, Eduardo business wasn't doing too good at that moment. And then I couldn't get out of my
Hmm.
work to study a full-time, student. And every time I tried, I couldn't. And then I have been working almost for 24 years in a jail, ministering to people, inmates. And if they see my videos, some of them, they know what I'm talking about.
That's so good. So you're in Cuba, you're a doctor,
Yes, medicine doctor, family
Okay.
practitioner. Yeah.
family practitioner, and you come here and you're a medical assistant.
hmm
Mm-mm. Not even
No.
a medical assistant. She was a housekeeper
I work as a housekeeper first
for
before
OHSU.
in between those two.
How is that greatness?
Whew. I think that I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of hard for me, but greatness. I see greatness. Uh,
By the way, I think it is.
it's
I mean, it leads to it.
it leads
right?
to me.
Mhm.
Yeah, no. But I said when I see my when I started, of course, we're talking about this greatness, and it is I can see it. I can see it. But at that moment when I was doing it,
Oh,
it was kind of hard. It was so hard. I couldn't see it.
is it
At that-
frustrating?
it was frustrating for
Yeah.
me. Passing, had those moments where I was like working as a housekeeper, and it was an intensive care unit at OHSU, the Oregon State University hospital. And I saw those people, some of the doctors I was seeing patients like they're so sick. Uh, and I was like praying for them. I got, to a point I grabbed some of the family members out and I said, I want to talk to you. I know that, my English is not that good yet, but I want you to understand that your father, if they do this, ask the doctor to do this, ask the doctor to do that. And they came to me, they go like, you should apply for to be a nurse and a doctor. You should do this. And some doctor passed me over. I was pregnant of Brenda.
Mm-hmm.
I was 2 months, pregnant of Brenda, and I was like, I was so tired. I was, having a really difficult time, and the doctor didn't. They passed me through. They almost hit me, with my bags full of, laundry and this and cleaning supplies and stuff. And I was like, I hope I can do this job. I hope I can be, one of these doctors one day.
Mhm.
I was like dreaming about that
And every time you thought you had a chance,
chance.
something else came up
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
and you couldn't do it.
I couldn't do it.
You mentioned that God broke the bitterness. Do you work with bitter people?
A lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
A lot.
I'm not giving you a job title or anything, but it seems like you're like one that breaks the bitterness. It seems like that you're part of that process for a lot of people.
Thank you.
Maybe not just bitterness, but when something needs broken down,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
bit at, chewed at,
Mm-hmm.
seems like you're really good at that.
Thank
So
you.
God seems to have a way, doesn't he?
It does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about, let's go back.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What kind of family were you born into? Talk about the small beginnings.
Oh,
I mean, we just talked about the middle of the story a little bit.
yeah. Well, I was born from two um, uh, uh, really worker. My father was a baker.
Oh.
My father was a baker. My mom was just a home sitter. But she used to help him. She used to do, launder for people, ironing, um, doing like a housework to help people, other people,
Mhm.
around, our neighborhood. But my father was a baker. Mom, one of the things that I remember when I was a child is that my mom, even with a difficult vision, she had a really difficult, she almost blind. She was able to raise us,
Wow.
Yeah, there are some. There is. There are things that the people have to do in poor countries that here, you don't do. Like, she was mentioning laundry for other people. For people in the neighborhood,
yeah,
in order to get paid.
yeah.
and on ironing
Yeah.
the clothes. So here you take to a dry cleaner,
Yeah.
but in Cuba we don't have a dry cleaner. So we have maybe that person that they don't have they have a really poor background, and the only thing that they can do is ironing your clothes or doing the laundry for you, so
Yeah.
they can get paid a little. It's not like a
Extra.
so she was her mother she was spending the whole night, sometimes the whole without sleeping ironing, because people needed that clothes the next day. So the whole night,
Mhm.
the whole morning, and then the sun rise again, and she was still ironing and
Yeah.
drying things up.
How many brothers and sisters? How many in the house?
Yeah. What? 5, 3. I'm the youngest.
Uh-huh.
My brother, the oldest, and I have a sister, the middle one, and my mom and my dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk about humility.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you learned that, huh?
Oh yeah.
From mom.
Oh yeah. Big time.
Well, dad too. That
Yeah.
being a baker, that's
Yeah.
early mornings,
Uh-huh.
hot work
Yeah.
on a hot island.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
With no
and
air conditioning.
With no air conditioning. And
Yeah.
hmm,
Yeah.
how do you feel about that environment that you grew up in? How do you look back and
I look back and to be honest, for so long when it was, like until I was like maybe 20 years old, some of that part really marked me. I was like kind of sad to
Hmm.
see some issues in my family. But at the same time, my mom, especially my mom, it was always my hero. It was always that person that bring me, that how do you call it?
Safe
It
safety net.
bring me that took me to that safety area. That I always look at my mom and I go like, I know I can do this. I feel safe when I'm close to her because she bring me that love, that
Mhm.
that sense of I would say completeness.
Mm-hmm.
Completeness?
Yes, yes, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
That's good. So is that been a big part of why you've just kept going? Right.
Yes, that's exactly why I chose to be a doctor. I always, everything that I did to a point, I did it just for my mama.
Mm-hmm. Still? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that love and concern, care we have for our moms in particular,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't go away.
No.
Exactly.
No,
Grows with time.
it grows with time,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah. It's
Mm.
like, if only I can be like that.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah.
I consider the things my parents have done for me, and I think about the quiet impact. And I was able to do some math. Somebody asked me to come up on a stage and talk about legacy one time, and I was able to sit there just before I got to speak, and it was only a few minutes that I got to speak.
Mm.
That it's possible that I'll see my great grandchildren if I live to
Mhm.
80, to about 85. Well, that's only 25 years from now, and
Uh-huh.
people do that a lot.
Uh-huh.
I might see my fifth generation. I might.
Mm.
And it made me think about the legacy that my dad left me.
Mm-hmm.
That he was a very generous, giving guy, very happy. People liked him. But he was raised without a father. With the father he knew wasn't a good man. He was an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And he broke, I mentioned to you, you
Mhm.
break bitterness. He broke the bondages of fatherlessness. My dad was always there.
Mm.
He didn't know how because nobody ever showed him. He did have a good father-in-law. My grandfather and my
Mhm.
mom's dad is a good example. But he had to figure it out. And he gave me opportunity. that now I can go one more step and I can give my kids and grandkids an additional opportunity.
Mhm.
And I think about the humility you mentioned in our parents and the
Yes.
people around us. That's greatness. That's actually greatness
Yeah.
because it makes impact
And-
by
Mm.
nature of
Yes.
the fact that we're seeing things more clearly than most.
Mm-hmm.
That we're seeing things very clearly for us.
Totally agree.
And then we get to use the sweat of our brow and our hands to do the work that creates impact on others. Though it may not be considered great and grand. Would you consider what your mom did great and grand?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm.
But who else would?
Who else would? Yeah, I know.
Many wouldn't, and that's okay. But you get to break bonds of bitterness and
Exactly.
you get to pray with
Mhm.
people and you get to minister. And God stopped you from a diploma,
Mhm.
from a doctorate,
Yes.
right? Over and over because he put his nameplate on that place and said, guess what? She works here. Wow.
Mm.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm still looking for my nameplate. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I said, I mean, I know I had a company for 40 years,
Yes.
but I still look at it and say, I'm still wondering what I'm supposed to do with my life. And yet my dad actually gave me the ability to think that way.
Uh-huh.
He
Mm.
never could, but he said, yeah, whatever you can do, whatever you want to do.
Mm.
You know, he never said I can do anything. Like I could not be a NBA player. I was never, I could never do that. He was sure to tell me that, no, let's be real here.
Yeah.
But within certain constraints, with certain things, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have opportunity out in
Yes.
front of you. And I appreciate that. That's huge impact.
Thanks.
And then, so your mom knew the Lord. And is that what
She didn't.
drove her?
I was the one that brought the gospel into my family.
Mm.
My mom and my dad and my sister, my brothers, everybody now in my family, pretty much everybody accept Jesus and got baptized and they're believers. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic story.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good. And your family similar?
Well, my family,
Now your grandfather.
remember that we were
Yes.
kind of like a split, my family, because I had my mom's side,
Mhm.
my grandpa from my mom's, they were Christians, both of them. But then from my father's side, nobody, was ever considered, to go to church or, congregate or even, practice, or maybe they have some belief, they never express it, at least
Mhm.
as far as I know or as far as I remember. But yes, no, it was a split. So mine was a little different scenario. What I saw happening is that when we became Christians, and then we start kind of like giving into our relative, our belief and our testimony, and they saw the transformation because we were different.
Mm.
You know,
How far in between the two of you? Which was first? Become a believer, yeah.
I think she was. Remember that I
Okay.
was a wild, crazy horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was the one who first,
This
you went the one, the first step.
Yeah.
And she was a tremendous influence for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I went to live with Eduardo, his parents always invite me to church, and since I was start reading the Bible, and I go like, I really want to go. I'm gonna go, and I remember when I started reading the Bible, I just get more into it. Like I really want to learn more, and then his grandpa has little envelopes for people that to give, the
Offerings
offerings,
or the
and
tithes.
he
Yeah.
was in charge of that for the church. And he explained to me why. I saw him always putting money in those little pockets. And I said, could you tell me why you're doing that? And he go, "Oh, this is for the church. This is," and he explained to me why. And I said, well, at that time I was a student, medicine student,
Mhm.
and I was making, I was $40, I think, as a student. They don't,
Dollars?
I mean, pesos,
Mm.
pesos cubanos, like
Not even
money,
$2.
Cuban. Sorry. But then 40 pesos, and he said, okay, he was making maybe 90 something and 100 pesos cubanos. He will get that 10% of his money to put it in there. And I go, Grandpa, I want to do the same thing. I want to do exactly the same thing that you're doing. And then he made me an envelope, but I wasn't a member of the church at that time. He said, I want you to make me that envelope. And that every time when I get the money, I put the money. And he said, you want to come to church? And I go, yeah. And then I remember one time Eduardo was like always like trying to, like kind of fighting me that he didn't want to obey his your grandparents. So like, oh, I don't want to go to the church. And I go like one day, I was so desperate. I go, I want to go to this service. I really do. He said, well, I'm gonna watch a movie. I'm gonna watch a movie. And I go, how come? I really want to go. Come with me. And he walked away like he was going to the movie. And I started praying. I went with them and I was walking. And when I got to the church, I was praying. I got there and I was praying, God, please bring Eduardo, bring Eduardo. And when I looked back, he was there. He arrived. He was like, and he started listening to the sermon. And suddenly, when we got out, he told his grandpa. He said, Grandpa, you told the pastor everything about me, about my life. Everything he was saying, it was just how I feel, everything that you know. And then that's what started, we started like growing and that. And it
Of
took,
course, Grandpa hadn't said anything.
Of course, that was my
Your conviction.
my conviction. That was yeah, because I didn't want to go to church, and I was rebellious, and so then it bothers me a lot that she was preferring to go to church instead of going with me to the movie,
Of course.
right? So and then I was so
And
mad.
then she prayed.
And then
Oh,
she
my
prayed,
goodness.
and then I end up. I have no idea, no clue. But I end up being on the church on the church and that day, being on the back. I'm gonna give you a funny story. So that day, I was on the. I was I just arrived, and then someone always is someone greeting you to come in. No, come sit down. I said no. I'm just here just to to look at it, just and I will leave. So no, I don't want to be. So I just stand up and the very back because I didn't want. So, but then as soon as the pastor started talking, and then talking and looking at me because he was looking directly at me.
Of course.
Of course. And then he started talking and making some stories, and I see myself, on each of one of those stories. That pissed me off. I was mad. But you know what? On top of that, so they just come around, just getting the offering.
Mhm.
The only money that I had that day, it was it was a peso. It was kind of like the silver dollar.
Mhm.
Of course, not silver,
Yes.
and not dollar. It was the first time that the Cuban government, just made a coin out of a 1 peso,
Mhm.
because the paper was really expensive for them to maintain, because the paper gets and they did it, with the metal.
Mhm.
But it was not in the public yet. But my dad, because of his position, he got at his work, a bunch of those, and he gave one to me. So nobody had that, so I had it. So I had it in my pocket. So they just come, picking the offering, and when I saw that, I said, "Well, I'm not giving my peso, my new peso that I'm the only one of my friends that has it. I'm not giving that up." So I just closed my eyes and pretend that I was praying. I closed my eyes, pretend that I was praying. So when the people come with the offering, they saw me, with the heads out. I said, "Well, they will continue, and that's it. So they will forget about me, and they will continue doing." So to my surprise, every time that I just squint my eyes and open a little bit, I saw the guy standing in front of me, with the with the back of the offering, and I say, "Well, I'm gonna. It is a fight. I'm keeping my peso," and I was and the guy wouldn't move. So eventually, I just surrender, and I open my eyes and say, "Oh yeah, yeah," so energetic and
Oh.
I was inside. I was dying. Can you imagine? I want to go to a movie. Then I end up being here at church. This pastor talking about me. And now I have to give the only peso that I have. The one that is new, that nobody else has. I have to give it. I was angry at that time. So I dropped that in there. So just to vent my emotions, my angerment,
Yeah.
I just went out of church and just sit down on like a retaining wall, outside the church. And I just sit down over there. And I was recapitulating the whole thing, how that happened and what I'm going to tell my wife now that when she comes out, I'm going to tell them, they need to hear a few things. Same my grandpa, he needs to hear a few things from me. And then I just put my hands down like this, and I felt something on the retaining wall. It was on the street. So I felt a coin, and that coin was the new peso that I just gave out.
For real.
And then that one shocked me because it's not like a common coin.
Yeah.
It was a very uncommon coin
Mm.
that I had it, and I just gave it with a really bad sentiment.
God didn't want it, by the way.
And then it was kind of like God telling me,
I don't want it.
actually take your peso and
Yeah.
and
You see? You see?
so
I don't need your money.
Yeah,
I don't need your money. Exactly.
Exactly. And don't-
That one shocked
That
me.
attitude, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
And yet, I don't know. He redeemed it somehow, didn't he?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But for me, it was shocking because I was not a believer.
Yeah.
But for that to happen to me, what are the possibilities of that to happen?
Yeah. So you're a thinker. You think, okay, it's got to be logical. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
How long before you
Well,
you came to terms with it and said, okay, it's got to be real?
yes. So no, that kept me going because I
4
said,
years.
yeah. After that, it took like 4 years.
Oh man.
Yeah. No, I was stubborn. My God.
I mean,
I'm
to be like really
Like
committed,
faithful, yeah.
committed
Yeah.
to the church and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a slow change.
So,
you
yeah.
have to give up a few things.
Yeah.
The things that are distracting so that you can see things more clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But for me, it shakes me because it was something out of the ordinary that happens to me. For a non-believer,
Mm-hmm.
I was atheist at the time. So for a non-believer, that kind of like this is not an accident.
No.
No, not at all.
It was not an accident.
Mm.
Other things happens later that kind of like it was accumulating one on top of the other one, and then I said, you know what? That's it. I cannot. I will need more faith to sustain my atheism.
Yeah.
That the one that I will need to believe that there is a creator that wants the best for me.
Amen. Amen.
It's still the case, isn't it?
Still the
It is.
case.
It's still
Yeah.
the case.
Yeah.
More than ever.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
still the case that we have to work more on opening our eyes
Mm.
to what God's got for us. Wow, it's a great story. So tell me what God's got now for you. Speaking of greatness, we're not done yet.
We're
Yeah.
not-
No.
We're not done yet. My dream, I always want to be a missionary. I always want to, like go and serve, other countries. Always. That was something that I had in my heart. But God was telling me, okay, this is your missionary. This is the campus. This is what I want you to, serve me. And but I when I talked to Eduardo about, Norell design, my work, getting, almost 25 years uh, working for the county, and I always thinking, okay, I know we're not done. What we want to do, and we always end up thinking something always for God. We want to do something great, 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 great from God. He will not bring it. I tell the inmates, I tell them, I said, uh, look at me, like look at me. I'm an immigrant. I'm an immigrant. I came here with a bag of, few clothes because I didn't have a lot. And I came here and we have houses and I work and I have kids. I have, my life. You can do it. You were created for good.
Mm.
You were created as his image. You know anything. You just everything. And it made me feel like this is my calling. My calling is to let the people know that we can do anything with God. And if everything we do is for his kingdom, I'm sure 100% that he will open the doors and give everything we need. And that is my heart. And my heart is not thinking about like as Eduardo to be like recognized as the best Norell, design in the world or anything like that. I just want everything that we can make, any money that we can make. It's just to be able to tell the people, and especially, now that I'm talking about Cuba, I want the Cuban people to know that Christ is a God that heal countries,
Mm.
and I want them to know that my prayers, our prayers, a lot of Cuban people, Christian people that are praying for peace in Cuba, and but that peace cannot come within you. Uh, with the Lord. You have to meet him.
Mm.
It could be in a room like me reading the Bible, but it could be in a dream. It could be something that that God talked to you. It could be this simply this video, this podcast. But that's what I want. My dream is that I want to use whatever any resource that Eduardo and me will have first to show to my own girls, our grandkids,
Mhm.
kids. That is so important to your family, to my family. It's our family. We're just one family, and that's my dream. And I don't think it's. I think it's big, but I think that God will give us that. He knows that. He knows that we want it for His kingdom,
Yeah.
and that's my dream to people to get to know Jesus.
I love the priorities. Take care of my own, because God actually asks us to do
Ask us
that.
to do that.
Take care of my own, which means we need to give them the right message, right? Give them everything they need. That God's given us, we can give them in abundance.
Amen.
And then and then beyond that is our other people,
Mhm.
the other people within our sphere of influence.
Mhm.
For you, it's Spanish speaking, and
Spanish
it's
speaking,
Cuban people
Cuban,
here, and
yeah,
then Cuban people
people.
there, right?
Mhm.
Yes, we all have those circles that go bigger and wider. And I often feel like I'm constraining it, that I probably can go further,
Mm.
probably can do more.
More. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always see something like that. Like we are the one who put the leash on ourselves,
The leash, yeah. Mm.
and just and stick so short that we cannot move because we're just concentrating on ourselves. The moment that we start detaching ourselves from us,
Mhm.
and then start kind of like acting and behaving to glorify God on everything we do, then that leash start going, going really far.
Yeah. And then at some point,
At some point, you
maybe
just
the Lord will let us cut it
let
off.
us cut it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
What a blessed day that'll be.
Yes,
Amen.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we have to detach, from that leash that keep us attached to ourselves.
Yeah. Our humanity.
Our humanity.
humility.
Yeah.
Our humility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Good. So if you were to go through this microphone, somebody's listening, with earbuds in. Maybe they're walking, or maybe they're listening on the radio in the car,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to sit next to them and you get to give one message. We've just talked for 45 minutes
Mm-hmm.
and told your story,
Mm-hmm.
talked about the Lord and the blessing and the bitterness,
Uh-huh.
that you get to break and all this.
Yes.
You have 30 seconds to tell them, I just need to tell you one more thing. What do you tell them?
Whew. I'll tell them that they're loved.
Mm.
They're loved. I have a feeling that the love between it, like to each other is kind of getting kind of cold in this society. I feel that people are not, they don't feel loved, many times. That's what I experience at work. When I talk to the inmates, when I talk to them, I can see that look when they look into my eyes. When I look into their eyes, I can see that they haven't been loved.
Mm.
And then God says in the Bible that especially love will cover multitude of sins, right? That when you think about that, I always this is the way I do it. This is the way I do it. When I look at someone, and someone told me in my women retreat, someone that I admire for her ministry, is that when you really want people to be healed, that person need to feel that you are really loving him at that moment when he's confessing the sins or telling you how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
Then feeling that love is the key for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling loved and like somebody really cares. And I want to tell, if someone is hearing this, I want to tell them that you are loved by the greatest, the love that never ends. And you have people that pray for you, people that pray that you get to know Jesus. Is have been, and it is everything to my life, to myself and my family.
Mm. Very good. Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what how the beginning to the situation was.
No.
There is a greatness at the end.
Amen.
It's not because of what we do. It's because there was someone that did it for us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's someone that created the whole thing in order for you to excel. And yes, as the moment that we start thinking about there is something greater, there is greatness to be achieved,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not on my merits.
Right.
It's nothing I can do. I just need to, like Ida was saying, I just need to show the love.
Yeah.
Because we were loved first.
Amen.
Oh, man, that is for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The kindness of God
Amen.
brings us to repentance.
Mm-hmm.
And that love, that kindness is raw love.
No, yeah. How can you? How can you?
Well, let's finish with that. I don't know if there's a better message. So I'm going to tell the listeners a call to action that hopefully will resonate with everything that we've said. Now, go be great.